It burns! It burns! No!
Oh my God! Hi everyone, Harthany Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Drenge album, Undertow. Drenge is a UK rock duo. This is their second full-length LP. I caught wind of them earlier this year off of a few hot singles, namely the song We Can Do What We Want. Easily one of the better rock tunes of the year. It's wild, it's fun, it's sweaty, it's wordy, it's got a punk vibe to it, a bit of a rockabilly vibe coming from the lead guitar that intros the song. The vocals on the track are a little obscured by some low mixing and some reverb, but they still sound pretty good. The guitars and drums come together on this track and create a very visceral performance, and there is just $1 million hook on this track as well. We can do what we want. There is a very dark, tense bridge on this track too, with an awesome build up to a final climax for the song. It's a very well put together track, but unfortunately, this is one of those albums where the deeper cuts just don't measure up to the lead single. I found a lot of the tracks on this album to be just far less fulfilling. We Can Do What We Want is, to me, such a direct, bold, memorable, in-your-face song. So it's kind of weird to hear the rest of this album suffer from like a musical identity crisis. The other cuts on this LP just kind of feel like these basic rehashes of various underground rock styles with kind of nondescript songs fueling them. Like the song The Snake, which is just 100% pure Nirvana worship from beginning to end. Or the song Side by Side, which oddly enough feels like I'm listening to Michael Stipe sing with some echo-drenched vocals on top of a kind of watered-down Jesus and Mary Chain instrumental with a very foreign, mystical, sinister lead melody. And the title track here, it's a bit of instrumental filler, maybe kind of heavy, and it may have some nice tremolo guitars laced in to the instrumental, but there's not really much to it in terms of excitement or I guess structure. It just feels kind of I don't know, just a little uneventful, and just like it's kind of killing time. There are two other tracks in the track listing here that caught my ear, though, for a good reason. The song The Woods and Standing in the Cold, both of which are kind of slow, dreary, deep voice post-punk with kind of a gothic flair to them. Very heavy on the eyeliner with these tracks. And these songs are actually one of the better directions that the album goes in, not just because I think that Drenge do the style well, but also the tunes underneath these songs are actually two of the better written songs on the album, especially The Woods, which actually features some incredibly dark imagery in the lyrics of being nailed to a tree. To a degree, there are two somewhat newer underground bands that already kind of remind me of what Drenge is doing. Maybe a bit of Grave Babies or Crystal Stilts. Groups that pull from a lot of the same stylistic influences, garage rock, post-punk, shoegaze, some goth rock. Similarly, they are amalgams of all these different underground styles, but in the case of Crystal Stilts or Grave Babies, they actually come through with a definitive sound that is instantly recognizable. I know when I'm listening to those groups or when I have stumbled across a song from one of those groups. I can't say the same for Drenge. Rather than forging a distinct sound that they can kind of carry out from the beginning to the end of an LP, listening to this album is kind of like watching Drenge just sit very uncomfortably in a chair. They're just constantly switching position, just very fidgety, kind of unfocused. And focus is something that for me is hard to come by on this album, especially as Drenge on a lot of these tracks expose themselves as being reverb addicted, like many young underground bands out there right now who are essentially using the effect to either, I don't know, mask a lack of ideas or just make a song feel or sound bigger, when what's really happening is the song is getting washed out and the bite of your performance is just being pulled away. I wouldn't say there's anything particularly god-awful about this album. There are certainly at least a handful of highlights here, but much of this album, there's not really anything all that memorable about it, in my opinion. There's nothing about this record that really goes above and beyond in terms of songwriting, vocal delivery, the playing and the performances, the technical ability, as well as just the energy and the intensity. There are just too many mild tracks on this record for it to be standout for me. Drenge has certainly proven with this album that they can make a bigger sound, bigger and more, I guess, intricate and layered than their last album, and they certainly have shown that they have the basics of a rock album down, but can they move beyond that? I'm feeling a strong 5-2 light 6 on this album. Transition, if you've given this album a listen, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? What did you think I should review next? And that's it. Anthony Fantano, Drenge, Undertow, forever.